Picture this: Florence, during the height of the Renaissance. A man sits with a quill in his hand and a notebook spread open before him. He gazes at the flight of a bird, not just admiring its grace, but sketching wings, gears, and early concepts of aerodynamics, centuries before the word even existed. That man was Leonardo da Vinci. And for him, the bird's flight was never just poetry. It was science. It was beauty, but also engineering. It was philosophy written in the air, an invention waiting to be born. Da Vinci was not merely a painter who gave us the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper. He was an anatomist, engineer, inventor, musician, philosopher, mathematician, a mind alive with endless connections. While the world insisted on dividing knowledge into separate boxes, science here, art there, philosophy somewhere else, Leonardo saw everything as woven together into one vast and invisible fabric. And here lies our problem. We live in an age with more information than ever, yet fewer and fewer people can actually make meaningful connections between ideas. Think about it. Today we have instant access to millions of books, articles, videos, and courses. It has never been easier to learn something new. Yet the feeling most people have is one of suffocation. Instead of becoming wiser, we feel overwhelmed. Instead of imagination expanding, it collapses under the weight of too much data. This is the paradox of our time. The age of information abundance has created a famine of wisdom, and science confirms it. In 1968, researcher George Land conducted a creativity test for NASA with 1,600 children. The results were shocking. 98% of those kids scored at the level of creative genius. But when retested 5 years later, that number dropped to 30%. At age 15, only 12% remained highly creative, and in adulthood, just 2%. In other words, society and education systematically train us out of the ability to think like Da Vinci. If Leonardo had followed that same trajectory, he might have remained just another workshop apprentice, endlessly repeating formulas and techniques without ever daring to go beyond. But he did the opposite. He cultivated curiosity, questioned the obvious, and trained himself to see the world with beginner's eyes. Here, Eastern philosophy gives us an interesting parallel. In Zen practice, students are often instructed to contemplate simple things: a cool, falling leaf, the sound of water, the silence of a mountain. The goal is not the leaf, the water, or the mountain itself, but to awaken perception. Da Vinci looked at the world in exactly that way. To him, the bird's flight was never just a bird's flight. It was an invitation to rethink human limits. And this is the contrast we must face. We are born with natural creativity, but our systems teach us to abandon it. We grow up in rigid structures that separate knowledge into fragments. An engineering student is told to ignore art. An artist is discouraged from touching science. A philosopher is seen as disconnected from practicality. This fragmentation robs us of the chance to see the world the way Da Vinci saw it, as a continuous tapestry where everything connects. The UNESCO has already warned that excessive hyper-specialization threatens global innovation. By training professionals who know more and more about less and less, we are building barriers that make it harder to solve complex problems. And that explains why so many people, despite studying so much, feel unable to create anything truly new. But here's the truth. We don't have to accept this fate. Da Vinci's genius wasn't a magical gift. It was a lifestyle, a way of thinking. He didn't treat knowledge as separate containers, but as a river where every stream, whether art, science, or philosophy, flowed together into the same current. So let me ask you, what if you could recover that ability? What if instead of living fragmented, you could learn again to connect ideas? Perhaps the real secret of Da Vinci is not in his inventions or paintings, but in the way he looked at the world. This perspective is powerful, but it also forces us to confront a dilemma. How can we reclaim this ability in a society that constantly pushes us towards speed, consumption, and superficiality? Today we spend hours scrolling through screens, consuming fragments of information without ever diving deep. We live distracted, and a distracted mind struggles to create. In Buddhist philosophy, the mind is often compared to a lake. When the surface is restless and full of waves, we cannot see the bottom. But when it is calm, the water becomes clear, and suddenly we can see with depth. Da Vinci lived in that state of observation. He could spend hours simply watching the flow of water, sketching shadows on a wall, or dissecting details others ignored. His creativity didn't come from rushing. It came from stillness and patience. That may be the first lesson we must take from his example. To recover creativity, we must relearn how to observe. True genius begins not when we chase results, but when we embrace the process. When we realize that a falling leaf can teach us aerodynamics, that a woman's smile can unlock the mysteries of anatomy, that the movement of water can inspire new engineering designs. So here's the question for you. Are you living as an information hoarder, or as a connector of ideas? Are you just collecting facts, or are you truly seeing the hidden patterns between them? The difference between these two paths could determine whether you remain a passive consumer or become someone capable of transforming ideas into innovation. And if you're still here with me, it means you are ready to dive deeper into this search. For that, I want to thank you. Crafting content like this takes hours of research, reflection, and storytelling. So I want to take a moment to invite you to support this channel. Become a member. Your support is what allows us to keep creating meaningful content that explores wisdom, philosophy, and creativity in depth. Together, we can build a community that values not just information, but transformation. Now that we've explored the enigma of lost creativity and the problem of fragmented knowledge, we're ready to move forward. In the next chapter, we will dive into the very heart of Da Vinci's method. We'll uncover how he managed to connect such distant worlds, transforming curiosity into innovation and observation into genius. In the first part of our journey, we uncovered the paradox of modern life, how we lose creativity as we grow, and how society fragments knowledge into isolated compartments. Now it is time to open the pages of Da Vinci's notebooks and enter the very heart of his method. The question is simple yet profound. How did Leonardo transform curiosity into creation? How did he manage to study anatomy, paint immortal works, design war machines, write philosophical reflections, and still find time to invent visions of the future? The answer can be summed up in one word: connections. For Da Vinci, knowledge was never divided. He believed that everything in the universe was interrelated, and by understanding one piece, you could uncover truths about another. This is why he dissected corpses at night, drawing muscles, bones, and organs with unmatched precision. Those same drawings helped him paint faces and bodies that felt alive. Faces like the Mona Lisa, whose smile still captivates us 5 centuries later. He observed the circulation of blood not because he wanted to be a physician, but because he wanted to understand how nature's mechanics shaped the human form. If you open his Codex Atlanticus or the Codex Leicester, you'll see the proof of this method. Thousands of pages filled with sketches of helicopters, notes about the flow of water, designs for bridges, observations of birds, mathematical calculations, and even jokes. At first glance, it all looks chaotic, as if ideas were spilling out uncontrollably. But if you look closely, you notice the thread. Leonardo was always searching for patterns, ways in which the laws of nature repeated themselves across different domains. And modern science now confirms the value of this kind of thinking. In 2017, researchers at MIT demonstrated that the most innovative individuals are not those who go deeper into one single field, but those who can navigate across different areas and combine them. Innovation, they concluded, comes not from the amount of knowledge you accumulate, but from your ability to connect distant points. Here lies the conflict of our own time. We live in a system that rewards specialization, to go deeper and deeper into one detail until you become an expert in something very narrow. And while expertise is important, it often blinds us to the wider picture. Da Vinci did the opposite. He widened his vision so much that he could see beauty at the intersection of art and science, logic and imagination, philosophy and practice. This reminds us of a Japanese concept, shu-ha-ri. It describes the stages of mastery. In the shu stage, the apprentice follows the rules, repeating patterns faithfully. Da Vinci did this when he trained under Verrocchio, mastering the basics of painting. In the ha stage, the learner begins to break rules, questioning conventions and seeking alternatives. This was Da Vinci dissecting bodies in secret, going beyond the accepted methods of his time. Finally, in the re stage, the master transcends rules completely, creating a personal style that has no precedent. Leonardo embodied this stage when he merged science, art, and philosophy into a unique way of seeing the world. Examples of his method are everywhere. When he studied anatomy, he wasn't just memorizing names of bones or muscles, he was mapping out the human body with such accuracy that many of his sketches were only confirmed centuries later by modern medicine. He wasn't doing it to become a doctor, he was doing it to capture life on canvas. In this way, art nourished science, and science nourished art. He also became obsessed with water. He watched rivers, whirlpools, and drops falling, sketching their curves, noting how currents twisted and eroded. To him, water wasn't just a natural element, it was a teacher. The way it flowed helped him design machines, improve hydraulic systems, and even influence the rhythm of his paintings, where movement seemed alive and fluid. This is the essence of the method, a gaze that unites rather than divides. Yet admiring this vision also forces us to admit how hard it is to apply today. We live in a world addicted to speed. We want quick tutorials, instant solutions, fast results. But Da Vinci thrived in the opposite environment. He took his time. He left many works unfinished, not because he was lazy, but because for him, the process of inquiry was as valuable as the finished product. Here again, Eastern philosophy helps us understand. In Taoism, opposites are not enemies but partners. Yin and yang complete one another. Da Vinci lived this balance intuitively. He was rational yet imaginative, meticulous yet visionary, disciplined yet playful. His genius wasn't about choosing one side. It was about integrating both. Modern neuroscience backs this up. A 2019 study from Harvard found that creativity arises from the balance between two networks in the brain. The executive control network, responsible for focus and logic, and the default mode network, which generates imagination and daydreams. Creative people can move fluidly between the two. Da Vinci, from what we see in his notes and works, was a master at this dance. But this balance is not easy. Most of us fall into extremes. Some become trapped in rigid logic, unable to see beyond the rules. Others float endlessly in imagination, never grounding their ideas. True creativity comes from the ability to step back and forth, to be disciplined when necessary, but also to let the mind wander freely. Da Vinci embodied that paradox. And that brings us to the central message of this chapter. The heart of his method wasn't about collecting ideas. It was about connecting them. It was about turning curiosity into investigation, investigation into knowledge, and knowledge into creation. So how do we apply this today? The answer lies in cultivating interdisciplinarity. Just as Da Vinci let music inspire his art, and anatomy influence his engineering, We too must allow ourselves to step outside our professional bubbles. Read books far from your field. Observe nature patiently. Keep notebooks filled with thoughts, sketches, and questions. Look for patterns others ignore. It won't be quick. It won't be easy. But it will change the way you see the world. Now that we've uncovered the heart of Da Vinci's method, his ability to weave connections across every domain of life, we're ready for the final step. In the next chapter, we will learn how to transform this legacy into practice, how to apply Da Vinci's principles and insights from Eastern philosophy to awaken our own creativity and to create like a genius in the modern world. We've uncovered the paradox of lost creativity and the fragmentation of knowledge. We've entered Da Vinci's notebooks and explored how he built bridges between fields that others thought had nothing in common. Now comes the most important question. How do we take this legacy and apply it to our own lives? How can we create like geniuses today in a world that seems more distracted and divided than ever before? The first thing we need to understand is that Da Vinci's method was never a checklist of techniques. It was a way of living. He was in a constant state of curiosity. Nothing was too small or too ordinary to be studied. A river, a shadow, a smile, the flight of a bird, everything was worthy of observation. This radical curiosity was his secret weapon. There's a Japanese term that captures this mindset perfectly, shoshin, or beginner's mind. It means approaching the world with openness, eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions, even when studying something familiar. Da Vinci lived in shoshin every day. That's why, even when he mastered anatomy or painting, he continued to ask questions, to look deeper, to remain humble before the mysteries of nature. So, the first practice we can adopt is the idea journal. Leonardo filled thousands of pages with sketches, reflections, and questions. Today, researchers in cognitive science confirm what he seemed to know intuitively. Writing and sketching every day expands creativity. A 2020 study in the Creativity Research Journal found that people who kept daily journals of ideas performed significantly better on tests of divergent thinking, the ability to generate many possible solutions to a problem. The second practice is interdisciplinarity. For Leonardo, learning about music could improve painting, and studying hydraulics could inspire architecture. He understood that knowledge is not siloed. Modern companies like Google and 3M follow this principle. Google famously allowed employees to spend 20% of their time on personal projects, leading to innovations like Gmail. 3M, which created the Post-it, has long encouraged workers to explore beyond their job descriptions. The third practice is slow observation. In an age of constant notifications and endless scrolling, stopping to really look has become revolutionary. Yet it's in stillness that patterns reveal themselves. Zen philosophy has always emphasized this. Silence and patience reveal what speed and noise conceal. Leonardo could spend hours watching how water swirled in a pool or how light shifted across a wall. From that patience, new ideas emerged. Of course, there are obstacles. The biggest is the obsession with short-term results. We live in a culture that rewards speed, but Da Vinci's method requires time. He spent years on projects, often leaving them unfinished, not because he failed, but because his process was more important than the product. Here, another Buddhist concept comes into play. Kinsho, meaning seeing one's true nature. Such insights don't arrive instantly. They come from sustained practice and immersion. The real message is this. To live like Da Vinci, we don't need to copy him exactly. We need to adopt his principles, curiosity, observation, integration, and let them shape our daily lives. So how can we apply his legacy in practical steps? Here are a few to start with. Question everything. Don't Accept the world as given. Ask how it works and why. Write daily. Capture your ideas, sketches, and observations. Don't rely only on memory. Step outside your field. Read and study subjects far removed from your profession. Practice deep observation. Spend time simply watching, listening, contemplating. Balance logic and intuition. Don't force yourself to choose one. Learn to use both. These steps may sound simple, but their impact is profound. Take Steve Jobs as an example. Before creating Apple, he studied calligraphy purely out of interest. Years later, that seemingly useless pursuit became the foundation for Apple's revolutionary approach to typography and design. Elon Musk, likewise, connects physics, engineering, and business into a single vision. These are modern echoes of Da Vinci's interdisciplinary spirit. Data also supports this. A 2021 McKinsey report showed that 84% of companies promoting cognitive diversity, bringing together teams with different educational backgrounds, were more likely to launch innovative products. Interdisciplinarity is not just inspiring philosophy. It's a proven strategy for success. And yet, one of the most powerful lessons is about what is not there, the empty space. In Japanese aesthetics, the concept of ma refers to the space between things. It's the silence between notes that creates music, the pause in speech that gives words weight, the gap in a painting that allows the mind to wander. Creativity is born not only in what we add, but in what we allow to remain open. Da Vinci understood this intuitively. He left space in his thoughts, in his sketches, in his imagination, for connections to form naturally. In the end, creating like Da Vinci doesn't mean trying to become Leonardo himself. It means living as someone who never stops observing, asking, and connecting. Genius is not about having all the answers. It's about cultivating the discipline to keep learning forever. Perhaps Da Vinci's greatest masterpiece wasn't the Mona Lisa, or his flying machines, or even his anatomical drawings. Perhaps his greatest masterpiece was his way of living, with endless curiosity, fearless questioning, and the patience to see deeply. That is a legacy we can all carry. So if there's one idea to take with you, let it be this. True genius is not about knowing more, but about seeing better. And seeing better means connecting what others overlook, integrating what others separate, and never ceasing to learn.